Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hey everyone.
So
Hello.
we popped in to discuss a little bit amongst ourselves some of the things that we do, each of us, to basically what our routine involves when we are trying to keep clear, tune in to our intuition and those kinds of things. We are learning at this time that we cannot rely on any one or two people to be giving us all the answers. And in fact, I have learned up to very recently to just pull away from all that. It just adds so much confusion. It just adds so much more. You start doubting yourself even more, like, oh my gosh, is so and so really the one? And then you just get confused. And that really is the goal to these people, the people that want to create mayhem. We don't want that. So I know that basically for a couple years now, I have been doing protections. So for sure, if I can, before I even get out of bed, when I'm still kind of in a good position, a good state, you hear those dogs? Sorry. Oh, good. I will do all my protections. I'll do all my clearings, clear my family, clear the buildings that we're in, and the protections and stuff. And that sometimes can take a good 20, 30 minutes, depending on the day and depending on the energies that are around. So I do that certainly first thing in the morning. When things get really a little bit ramped up, I might choose to do it several times during the day. Just kind of revisit that. You know what I mean? We know about protection bubbles. We know about, protecting your vehicles when you're out and about, putting, armor on yourself and your family and so forth. When it comes to tuning in, I've been doing the pendulum for a while now. And for me, when I was I want to say I always had a pretty good, knowing of what was not right, because I could see shysters from quite a distance. So I used my gut instincts on that. But in order to really tune in and get a little bit more specific, the pendulum was helping me. Can you guys hear the dog?
A little
really.
bit, no worries. They're banging on my roof.
That's life.
So.
The pendulum was helping me with
Never work with animals or children.
Yeah. That basically, any kind of divination tool, whether it's your tarot cards, your divining rods, or the pendulum, they are giving you an outward sign of what you already know or what your answer is. So I basically used it as training wheels, if you will. So now when I actually tune in, which I try to do right away in the morning as well, because that seems to be the best time. I get up before anybody else. You're still kind of, before you've gotten cluttered with the day's activities and so forth, I can focus and I can tune in and just know that what I'm hearing is source, is higher self talking to me. So when I write in my journal about the day or about the messages, I might double check them, I just write them down, and it's very interesting. So I do feel a lot more confident about things, and in moving forward, I know when to. I'm more sure about which direction I'm going to go, who I'm going to listen to, what feels right, if that makes any sense. So it's not rocket science, and it's not complicated, but it takes time. And certainly at the very end of the day, when I go to sleep, or as I'm preparing for bed, I will do another set of clearings. Okay. Like I say, if something's going on in your life, something has changed, you might be wanting to protect and clear and do things multiple times, or before somebody goes to a place that you're worried about them, things like that. But just be in tune that, keep yourself protected, so that the higher your vibration is, the higher your light shine, or brighter that your light shines, the more of a beacon you are, and the more of a target you may be to the dark ones who are scrambling for their ever-loving life right now. And so just do your best to stay safe and positive as you move forward. We don't give, for the people who sit there and might peck at you and try to tell you what to do, just pay them never mind. They just don't get it. It's okay. Bye-bye. So that's in a nutshell what I do. So it's Scott's turn.
Yeah. Again, I'm sort of different, I guess. So that's what's beautiful. I think we're all have different ways of sort of tuning in and listening to that inner voice, I guess you could say. And for me, it's like, again, I'm sort of, it's been probably the last 12, 15 months or thereabouts where I've really started to sort of, I've really even learned about the intuitive side of us, and sort of I would say over the last 6 to 8 months, especially, I've really been more focused on trying to develop that and trying to be in tune with what I'm, with what I'm hearing, whether it's the mind, whether it's the chatter, it's the, there's so much confusion going on. And it's certainly been a real journey to figure out who I'm listening to and what's going on, whether it's the ego, whether it's, my intuitive knowing. And for me, it's, and I think I've said this in a few other videos before, but it's certainly, what I've come to recognize is how quickly those intuitive hits come in, and as opposed to, say, something that's sort of more chitter chatter and constant, it kind of comes over the top of that chitter chatter for me, and that's how I sort of recognize it. And again, like you're talking about being in a higher state of vibration, I think I find if I'm in that higher state, if I'm in a better mood, or if I'm sort of more uplifted, I'm way more in tune with my higher self, which is something I've really noticed, especially when I've been in lower states of vibration. And I've noticed that a lot over the last sort of few months. You almost lose that connection. It's funny, you just struggle to get there. And again, that kind of lends itself to the state that we're, I guess, forced to be in all the time, and where people that they really can't tune in as much as they'd like to. So it's really important to keep your vibration high, get in that state of high vibration where you can, and that's going to allow you to, I think, to tune in a lot easier and really start to discern the differences. But yeah, I mean, there was a classic example even tonight, where I was, funny enough, I was getting undressed and I took my socks off and I lost one of the socks, and I was like, where's this sock gone? I mean, how could I just literally took them off my feet? And it was bugging me. And I'm like, I basically just, I sort of, in a sense, was sort of looking for this sock, and I just had this intuitive hit. It was like, you got to check your boxes. And I'm like, well, I'm sort of thinking, playing in my head, like, what are you talking about? And I went and checked my boxer shorts, and they'd found their way in there somehow. And I was like, I just held it up. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, And it was like, the more, and like those sort of little, they're only little things, And but that's how I think, if people really want to start to understand the differences, there's the little things like that which you can help to discern the differences between the chitter chatter and those intuitive hits, and those, and when you trust in that, and you'll be amazed at what comes out of it. And that's just a little example. But I was even having a chat to my wife this morning, because she was sort of this evening, sorry, she was sort of asking what we'd be talking about tonight, and she mentioned that she's more energy based, like she feels feels energy. That's how her intuitive hits are sort of more through that sort of method, and it's just another one of those, which is, again, I can relate to 100%. I feel very empathic sometimes when it comes to energy, so I can feel things very, very, I can feel a mood very quickly in a room, or I can just sense a person's behavior, how they're feeling very quickly. So that's just another thing to be tuned into, I find. And hearing her sort of bring that up was like, yeah, you're right. That's another great way that we can tune into ourselves and get that high state of consciousness sort of flowing through. So So yeah, I think it's like I said, Jules, it's about practice. It's about sort of, being diligent and then starting to recognize and trust in that. And it could be little things. You start to use the little things, like finding your socks and whatever it is, just to build up that confidence in who you're speaking to and who you're listening to. And I for one too, like I said, have really stopped listening to a lot of outside influences now. I've really just, I'm really honing in on my own inner knowing and really trusting in that now. And that's been a massive lesson for me, and I'm sure for everyone as well. And it feels so much more empowering, when you do that, which is great. So a lot of growth I feel is coming from it.
I love that you and Renee are talking about it too, and that she's giving you her. That's pretty
amazing.
cool, actually.
It's surreal, which is awesome. It's just, it's been fun. I mean, we've had some great discussions on this, guys, but it's fantastic. It's like, if it's going to be like this in the future and getting better, it's going to be amazing. So looking forward to that. Yeah. That gap closing between,
Yes,
with our relationship and
right.
and coming together more and being more on the same level, which is going to be fantastic, and that's all I've ever wanted, since my awakening started. So looking forward to that. Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point. It is about trusting yourself and listening to how are you feeling? Don't let somebody else tell you how you might be feeling or how they're feeling and then try to apply it. No, to see how you are feeling and how, when you listen to someone, or like you said, you walk into a room or whatever, what are you seeing, smelling, feeling? What's going on? Get in touch with your senses. Yeah. And trust them. Like you said, the more you do that, the more you're going to find things change for you. So
they do. Definitely.
They've been trying to control us as to how to feel and how to think for so long. It's a challenge, but it's so important to break away from that and not, rely on getting all of your answers from outside sources. So yeah, it's like so important to step away from all of that occasionally and just kind of go within, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much out there, and it's
all
it gets so
distraction.
confusing. Yeah, and it gets very confusing, and it just adds to the confusion, the clutter, and the chatter, and it's when you can switch all that off and just focus and really just step away. It's amazing. It really, you feel so much lighter, and and like you said, trust is a huge one. And but yeah, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's the intention. It's intending that for yourself, for that portion of you to sort of come to the fore. I think, as opposed to just relying on people telling you information and sourcing this and sourcing that. I think it's, that's a great way to get kick started. Don't get me wrong. It has its place, that's for sure.
And it is nice to have somebody else to kind of like throw ideas back and forth and, get a little bit of confirmation that way. But
for sure.
But first and foremost, rely on yourself. Excuse me, I have to cough.
I think you said it very well, Scott. And the one thing I wanted to say about this whole chaos and confusion and this conflicting information and sometimes very fantastical, information, because if you really whack it overboard, and that's when the confusion comes, and the frequency moment of that is such that, that is when it's very easy to implement information. There is a two-lettered, two consonants that actually is a method certain, parties use when they want to, much like, TV, and there's these programs when you want to install a program into a person. I'm not going to say the letters out loud, I'm not idiot, but that's exactly what is being done. That is exactly that how it's being done is create confusion, create kind of like, what does it mean? and then you give a straight answer, no matter how outlandish it is. But that is when the programming is happening into the brain. And this has to do with brain waves. There's actually a science behind all of that.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's not that easy to take a hold of, when that happens, when you're very close to the situation. But when you take a step back and observe, that is when the truth always comes through in the end. And that is when you see what really is going on, what really is, what feels right to you. It isn't as much like, who said, he said, she said, these conversations. That's nonsense in the end. What really matters is how you feel about it.
Perfect.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay.
Would you like to go next, Dana, or shall
So
I?
I would like you to go next.
Okay, because Dana's is much more extensive than probably all of ours, but she has a huge network. So for me, I do things in a weird way. I always, like, when I get up, I do my protection and all that, and I just kind of get a feel of the energy of the day, and I check the Schumann, and I just look outside and see what it's doing outside, and I just get the energy of the day. And what's funny is, if I usually have a smoothie for breakfast, for some reason that process of making that smoothie and the noise from the blender that turns it on, I can tune in, and a lot of times I'll get a word or two or a phrase, and if something important needs to come in, that's when it comes in, which is, it's weird, but it's what happens with me. And I build on that. I confer with somebody else and say, well, what do you think about this? What's your sense of the energy? And I'm more about reading energy and that kind of thing. But I'm also very good at sensing people. I, of course, have been misguided at times. I mean, we all have. We get too caught up in relying on answers, like we were just speaking, from other people, instead of just going within. And so we all have had lessons where we had to step back and go back to doing that. And another thing I do is, when I'm swimming or taking a shower or ironing, these simple little processes, that's when I get a lot of my information. I do want to start more of a routine where I just sit down and with a journal, like Juliann does, and I know Dana does, and write down any bigger messages that I get. I should really be doing that. That's kind of one of my goals. So I do want to keep working at it and improve, because the more you work at it, the more you practice it, the more information will come. But yeah, and I've just, over the years, I've just learned to trust my first impression that I get. If I ask a question, the very first impression I get, that's what I've been learned, or been, finding out I should trust that. And sometimes it sounds crazy. I mean, sometimes the stuff that I come up with is crazy, but a lot of times it's true.
Yeah, crazy doesn't mean that it's not true.
Well,
in the world we've learned can be all kinds of crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the world that we think we live in is not necessarily the way it is, right? I mean, we have learned that for sure. So if something seems out of the blue, you have to just go with it.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to, like, just put it on a shelf and let it sit there for a while until you get other information that comes in. I mean, that's I do that quite a bit. Oh, I got this information, but I'm not ready to, like, make a decision on that yet. So, and I do practice protection, twice a day, if not more. Like Juliann said, if things seem a little chaotic, or if I get like a twinge of something that doesn't seem right, that I will do it more. So that's another thing I do. But I'm also just a very good, I just have a very good intuition. And that's pretty much all the time now. And I do try and have gratitude when, the answers come in. I always say, well, thank you for that information, because it does help also that more will come in when you have that gratitude. So I'm trying to think what else. And sometimes light language just pours out of me, and I don't understand it quite yet. I sometimes get a sense of what it's saying, but I'm lucky that Dana helps me in deciphering my messages.
Beautiful.
But I
too.
can also,
It's basically light language is a language of the heart.
yeah,
It's there
and
are different light languages, and everyone is kind of a channeling the light language in different frequencies, because all of us have different frequencies. So the light languages that
yes,
comes in different frequency, but it doesn't even matter, because you can come from the whole other end of this galaxy, and a person would speak to you light language, you understand, because it comes from the heart. So it all is telepathy.
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
So yeah, and yeah, sometimes I just sit down and I think about the intention, because to me intention is everything. The intention of a message for so and so, or what needs to be said for this. And other times it just spews out. So it comes in both ways, and when it spews out, it's like I can't control it. And I don't always have a recording device nearby, so that but I do try and record it as much as I can. And it's just always so fascinating to get the translation from Dana, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like not what I was thinking consciously, but it's so amazing that it relates to something that's going on.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping to put more messages up on my YouTube channel, light language messages.
It's almost like the light language is bringing, from the deep. You mentioned the elements of water, and water is very like it represents the night, and like unconsciously what you're kind of feeling around, but your kind of everyday consciousness doesn't necessarily deal with those things, so they remain there at the back of your mind. But light language, it's almost like it kind of flows like water. So it's no
Yes.
wonder that you get these ideas and messages when you swim and when you're in a shower. I'm also a watery thing. So I also get my stuff a lot when I'm in the shower and in swimming in the lakes. So I get it. So the light language is kind of like bringing to light what needs to be known at the time, but it comes from that deep knowing.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
Very.
Mm. How long
And I
have you
try
been
and
having
do,
the light language come through, Steph?
oh, I want to say 3 years.
Okay.
At first I figured I was just
Yeah, it must have been
talking
weird to begin
nonsense.
with.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd record it occasionally, and people didn't always understand it. So when you don't have somebody to confirm what you're saying, they just felt the energy of it. You're not as inclined to speak it. But around walking around my house, when I'm outside, it just comes out. When I get up to do something, it just comes out. I mean, it.
Hmm.
And one person told me, "Oh yeah, it's just for you," but I didn't trust that person. So
Have you ever been
in other
out
words,
have you ever been out in public or out somewhere like or is it pretty okay, so you've been out in public when it has happened?
yes, it's come out when I'm like sitting next to my husband, and what's funny, it's like he doesn't say anything.
Oh, do you think it's almost like he might not really even be hearing it? I mean, like for what it is?
He hears it, but I think he has his own little light language pattern too. So,
Oh.
it's not that far-fetched in our household to say nonsense.
Well, and if, you know, and if nothing else, Stephanie, just like you said, a tune-in journal, like, you know, as you're getting more and more of these, you know, keep a little journal of, you know, the date and time and kind of what the message was. That'd be kind of interesting to look back on, because it will tell a story. You're being guided. You know what I mean? And certainly everything in hindsight, right, is 2020. But that would be rather interesting.
Something that is actually being I'm getting right now, that it would be beneficial for people to usually just take a notebook, any notebook, and keep it by your bedside. And when you wake up, write everything you remember, down to the smells, colors, people, conversations, etc. Write everything down. And because the more you pay attention, the more information will be given to you.
Yes.
And I remember I used to be a big dreamer when I was a child, but when I started to write those dreams down, all the symbology and everything that's, you know, used to come to me, all of that's kind of like, you know, figuratively speaking. And I got the kind of messages, but I was very intuitive as a child already. But when I started to write them, those messages became direct messages, like almost to a point. Like even don't take that bus to school. Take the bus that leaves either earlier or later. And later on, I found out that that bus actually, you know, had an accident. And just very direct messages. Just, you know, write down everything you remember. And it doesn't, you know, it doesn't have to be, it isn't always these grand schemes that you're getting. It could be very mundane. But the thing is, we are never alone. We have a whole orchestra around us. It's just that usually people don't see them. It doesn't mean that they're not there. And these people, they are here to help you and to guide you and to assist you. So dream is a very good and powerful tool. And if we could harness that fully, that would be a very, very good and beneficial, powerful tool for us to use. And you can ask questions. One of the things, you know, I started to do, I don't remember, I was quite a young adult at the time. And I was in a life situation that wasn't very fun. Not that I've been having so much fun lately, but, you know, I was a lot younger and less spicy at the time. So I started to ask questions, yes or no answers. And I wrote down the question 3 times, because I've been getting 333, like, you know, 3 and 9 and 27, etc. You know, these are powerful numbers, and I especially like the number 12 for a personal reason. Anyways, I wrote 3 times down the question on my notebook, and every time, without an exception, I got the answer, either yes or no. And then I just started to ask questions like, what would be the best course of action? What would be the most auspicious time to blah, blah, blah. And I would receive answers. Because in a dream time, you are in your center. You're not restricted by this whole 3D thing going on.
Yes, asking questions is very good. And start with the yes, no, and then build on that. You know, maybe just get a word or a phrase. And yeah, I think that's excellent. So go ahead, Dana, you go now.
Yeah, and talk about, you know, nighttime alone. It's very important to protect yourself. I would recommend that we clear ourselves and we clear our families and animals, our families as well, and that we would protect our places. And then also, I think it would be very beneficial. I've learned that you would put this protective bubble also around you and your family members, in addition to basically the physical environment in which you are living, but also around you and your family members. Because, you know, nighttime is, you're very ripe for messages, but you want to make sure that the messages come from a good source. So say that you may be a bright person. Say that maybe there are those who are very interested in your light and in your abilities, in your gifts. They would very likely be very interested in shimming into your energy body and stealing those. So it's very good and advisable to protect yourself, you know, because they can come through all kinds of realms, time, space, continuums, all dimensions. So you have to look them down. So be proactive. Be very proactive. And then if you feel in the morning that, you know, you're not like something like extra fat is around you or in your energy body or even in your physical body. I mean, it is our physical nature, in our physical nature is when we wake up, is that we should feel better than when we went to bed. But if you feel like something is, you know, going south, trust that intuition, because then something is going south, and clear yourself immediately. That is what I do immediately when I wake up. Because we don't want to be feeding grounds to the dark. So immediately pull back your energy and declare it comes back to you fully and cleared, intact. All the whatever, let's put it this way, negative influence that is being directed to you, mirror it back to the sender 1,000-fold. You don't need to play with these creatures anymore. Let's put it this way, the universal situation right now is such that the patience when it comes to these lower frequency creatures is wearing very, very thin. We don't have to go very lightly anymore. So if you get attacked, a counterattack is absolutely appropriate. And I always return everything these days, 1,000-fold. You're welcome. See who's laughing at the end. But, you know, there are more in life than just mornings and night times. But in the morning, usually when I wake up, so I clear myself, I clear the place, and I set the intention to the day. And that is when I call in, well, that's not the only time in the day, but that's how the day starts. That is when I call in my peeps, and my peeps are my higher dimensionals, my angelics and galactics, and also my spirit family around me. And I have a talk with them. I kind of I remain in that intuitive place, and I look at people around me and I see who is in a need of clearing and who is in a good place, like what is happening. Because, you know, we are not alone in this world. The people in this circle, these people are my family. The family doesn't only consist of those who share the same kind of a blood, because, you know, that your blood family can be just hideous creatures, I've learned. And sometimes the people that you find that really are your family by the spirit contracts are much more bonded into your energies. So if one person is feeling poorly, that reflects on all the other people very easily. So it's very, very important to keep, and this is the same with your families as well. So if one person is poorly, of course, like let's say one person is sick in a family, everyone else is sick because everyone is tending to that person. So it's very important that everyone would remain and stay in a good place. And lately, the good energies have really, really come to the forefront in, you know, all kinds of bells and whistles. And a lot of people and light workers have been worked on, because the energies to which we are kind of we are walking up the ladder, we are running up the ladder these days. So the energy is very compatible to very rapid development of things and mending of things and healing of things and strengthening of things. So that is when maybe, you know, people we wouldn't have expected to be talking about these things, even spouses, wink, wink, can kind of come forward and start to express their experiences. And that is because their heart spaces have been worked upon. There are all kinds of very, very, very powerful workers working on this planet. And they are very, very powerful workers working that we don't see. It doesn't mean that they are not here. So in the morning, basically, I speak with my peeps. That is intuition, that is telepathy. And another thing is the concept of time is a man-made thing. It's a very 3D-ish thing. Because existence is, we are in soul matter here. And I hope you don't hear the noise from the outside. I have to have the window creaked open, and there's all kinds of ruckus going on. Young people and
No, so good.
Summer vacation. Anyways, that is when I speak with them. And I have my favorite crystal that I use as a pendulum, but much more so than a pendulum. I just straight up have this intuitive conversation with my people. And my people that I'm talking about, my galactics now, they are working from their heart center, their heart space. They are using the brain for logical thinking only after something is being felt through the heart space. And how did I kind of go back to me this summer was that I spent really long times in the nature. And I went and I swam in the oceans. No, sorry, in the lake. We don't have ocean here. I'd have to travel. But I swam in the natural water, and I took walks. And one thing that is very, especially, you know, the elementals, when we talk about them, is all kinds of herbs. And these herbs that I've collected, like this is a meadowsweet and this is yarrow. So I make all kinds of infusions and my own potions, etc., that I use and drink. So these are keeping me grounded, even if I'm physically living quite far up. So there are all kinds of ways to go about it. And during the daytime, if I hop into my car, I protect the car, I clear the car, I put up clear boundaries around it. And I'm just trying to stay in a place. In Buddhism, I understand that Scott has to go now.
No, I'm saying the opposite.
Sorry, I'm not having my, sorry, I don't have my readers. I'm a bit of a black bat, but Juliann needs to go.
Yeah, I need to go, sorry.
Yeah, no
See you,
worries.
Jules.
See ya.
Sorry, I was just saying I'm okay to hang around. That's fine.
Okay, I have my readers over there, but I'm kind of like flying blind here. I'm trying to train my eyes. I've been doing the whole castor routine on my eyes, and
yeah, I'm wearing less glasses too.
I'm reading so much and writing so much and doing all kinds of very precise things. So I'm always kind of overworking my eyes. So I don't know if that is helping anything, but I just love the effects of castor oil. So where was I? So reconnecting with what feels good and familiar to you. And nature and herbs do feel good and kind of like, to me, that feels true and real. And what is true and real is the trees. And you know, all kinds of tree hugging, walking in the woods and walking in the meadows. Flowers, to me, it's almost like it's a very romantic idea, but also it's almost like going back home. Like I'm going back home when I'm in the energies of my galactics. It's when I was a child, I never felt like I belonged here. But when I was in connection with my galactics, that is like, I was told them, I don't want to go back. You have no idea how crazy these people are. You have no idea how bad it is, you know, down in the planet. And they were like, the job is not done yet. So, but you can reach that space energetically even. And all you need to do is kind of go within and feel around what feels right and true to you. And it is different to everyone. And I don't know about, you know, meditation is very good if you have the time or the patience. But I know there's such a thing as an active meditation that would be very beneficial. Like I know Stephanie is meditating through her water, like when she's swimming, when she's kind of in an intuitive place. I do much of the same. Another thing is I listen
Absolutely.
it. It's a repetitive thing. I don't need to think about it. I'm just doing the one thing. I on my YouTube channel, I put in the community tab that I found this excellent video of a very young lady who says that she meditates by hand stitching. When she puts the needle into the fabric, she's taking a very big inhale, and when she's pulling the needle out, that is a space for out, like exhale. And she repeats, and she says by the time she's finished with a seam, she's in a completely different frame of mind. So yeah, people have different things. What do you do for meditation, Scott?
Well, I try to be creative like yourselves. I mean, I enjoy playing guitar, so that's something I like to do when I can, which is very rare these days. But you know, I might find 20 minutes, half an hour sometimes on a weekend where I can sit down and just have a strum, a bit of a play, and really just that I'm not focusing on learning or doing it. I'm just playing. You're just strumming some chords, playing some scales, and just trying to just play around and just get that feel, you know, just get that zone out sort of meditative state, you know. I mean, other things I really enjoy doing, you know, which may be a bit left field for some, you know, full grown adults would be I build Lego, and I build, you know, large scale Lego models. So, you know, I have a couple of really large sets I work on, and it's just a great way to escape and just zone out and just really get out of, you know, just getting just something you can do for yourself. And you just, it's just, I love it. It's something I really enjoy. And at the end, you have this amazing piece you can sort of, you know, you can display at the house. I've got some at the office. It's just, you know, it's great. It's fantastic, you know, and it's something people can appreciate as well. And, but yeah, I think, you know, it's really important. I think, like I said, meditation is such a, you know, for some people, it's such a scary word, you know, it's like, oh, how do I do that, you know? And I did a bit of a course in that, you know, about 18 months ago, and it was so beneficial. And not that I've practiced a lot the last for probably 12 months, but, you know, it's something that's there, and I've turned to when I've really felt the need to and had the time. And it's a great way of just, you know, recentering and getting back in touch and just getting rid of that chatter, you know, and getting back into a more positive state. So I think it's, you know, it really, everyone's going to have their own little niche, their own little sort of, you know, little
We
something
can't,
they can do to really
yeah,
sort
we
of chill, you know.
we can't be comparing ourselves to others,
No.
how they tune in. That's the point of this. We can't, you know,
Mhm.
the way you do it is different the way I do it, and it's all okay.
Mm.
You know, don't be afraid to try new things and, you know, see what works for you. I think that's the biggest point here, you know.
Yep.
That's why
Yep.
we're coming here today.
Yeah.
It
What-
looks
what-
different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, the whole thing with music, I actually dug up my ukulele, you know, after a long time a while ago, and I started the same. I started to relearn the strumming and chords and everything. But the thing is, when you make music, that is, there are studies about this. That is the only way you can activate every area in your brain simultaneously. There's nothing else that, you know, people have found during those studies. Rather than making music, every area of the brain is being activated. And I saw that when I was working in a hospital, because we had patients who hadn't spoken for over 10 years because of all the, you know, all the dementia, Alzheimer's, all the degenerative, you know, changes in the brain. And had there been accidents, etc., you know, patients who couldn't even move themselves. But we would start to play music to them. So they weren't doing the music, but they heard the music. And all of a sudden, these patients who'd been completely mum for some even more than 10 years started to make noises and started to hum according to the music. There was even a lady, and she used to conduct a choir, a very large choir, and she sang a whole song all of a sudden. And she was completely bedridden, that lady. I mean, she couldn't, for as long as I worked there, I had never heard her utter a word. And that was such a surprise. But her daughter actually brought her some kind of a radio. There was a cassette or something, because back in the days, we all listened to our cassettes. And there was a cassette, and there was some kind of a very old-timey music that was, you know, very, very much. Apparently, they sang that song in the choir, and that lady belted out the entire song from the, you know, the bottom of her bed. And all of us, luckily, I was there in the room. I would not have believed that if I hadn't. Yeah. So there are all kinds of ways you can't find that creative moment, that intuitive moment. But I think it's very important that we still protect ourselves and we still keep clearing ourselves. And we can just imagine the pure consciousness from the universe to come, from the source, to come and cleanse you. And you can ask your angelics, your galactics, your spirit family to assist with you. And they will. And when it comes to angels, there are millions of unemployed angels who are very ready and willing to work with you. But you have to ask them. That is the law. You have to ask them. But they will come if you ask them. But you have to ask them. And all of us, we have our own angels even. We have the most interesting chats with Gabriel.
And, you know, that's probably another good thing to just work on is, you know, getting a better connection to your guides, your angels, your team, you know.
Trust in that too, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. Have faith in that and trust in that. And, you know, that's the intention. Everything's there. It's all part of it. You don't want to go half-assed. Yeah. You want to, you know, when you speak to them, and I know when I do that, I speak, you know, I'm very grateful and loving, and then, you know, my intention is to connect with them, you know, and it's amazing how powerful it is, and you feel it. You really do feel it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. I think.
Yes.
Is there anything else we sort of haven't touched on?
It's just, my peeps just want to say that there is this, they do this expression, like put their hand on the heart space and do like this, like there's great love here in the world, in the universe for you. And always, never forget that. Always trust that. Even when you feel alone, remember you never are alone. You are never alone. There are always people around you. You just don't always see them. And everyone has a soul family. So this whole energy of family is very being put in the forefront. So trust that even if your physical family, your blood family, might feel not so wonderful, you have the other family that goes way more back. Maybe you came to this life to clear the debts of old with your blood family. The reason why they were born so close was so you can resolve the karma between you. But you have other family, and that is a spirit family. And those bonds go back hundreds and thousands and millions of years to the beginning of time. So in the end, you will find each other. And if you haven't found yet that family, know that it is waiting for you. It may happen while you're wearing this human suit. It may happen when you're wearing the next human suit. But every single person you meet, there is a meaning that is either a lesson or a blessing. And it's very good to make a differentiate the two of them, because they always comes, like, it's also very important to let go of those who've been a lesson for you. But let go of them lovingly, but let go of them in a finite way. Unless you want to walk through the lesson, yes, again, of course.
Which does happen.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh.
I can repeat.
Yeah. Until the
Okay.
lesson is learned.
Yep.
I think we're done.
Okay.
Until
Beautiful.
this video.
Yes. Good to see everybody.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah.
Take care. We'll see you
Bye.
soon.